One day there is a very fierce war between the Shimazu clan and the Tokugawa clan, and after the Shimazu clan gets besieged, Toyohisa Shimazu stands and tells his uncle the commander, "Continue until our village. I will stay to delay them," so the commander tells him, "You also must come back with me." So Toyohisa replies, "I would have been happier if I died in the village. But the most important thing now is that you are the one who returns even if all the troops will die," and he orders the archers to get ready because the enemy is coming closer, so his uncle leaves before they arrive and tells him, "I will wait for you to return and I will not forgive you if you die." And Toyohisa orders to fire, and he rushes quickly at the enemy army with his sword, cutting them one after another until he reaches the commander. But the events of the battle turn against him because Tokugawa requested support, and the enemy soldiers eliminate Toyohisa's soldiers, so he decides to attack the enemy commander to end the battle. But all the soldiers gather around the commander to protect him, so Toyohisa gets excited and jumps among them, and they pierce his body with all their spears, so they think he is crazy and just wants to die. But suddenly he smiles at them and pulls out a rifle and fires a bullet at their commander, and Toyohisa stands despite the heavy blood he lost. So the enemy forces withdraw from the battle, and Toyohisa gets very angry because he did not cut off the commander's head nor is able to chase them because of his wounds. And at night Toyohisa walks alone towards his village, but his serious wounds make the matter very difficult, and so the battle of Sekigahara ends, and suddenly while he is walking in the forest he finds himself in a place all white and around him many doors. And he looks ahead and finds a desk and a person sitting at it reading a newspaper, and his name is Murasaki. And when he sees Toyohisa he closes the newspaper and raises for him a sign written on it, "Lunch break," and tells him come another time. So Toyohisa gets angry and asks him, "Who are you and where am I? How do I return to my village from here?" So Murasaki gets annoyed from his disturbance and holds the pen and writes on a paper written on it the name Toyohisa, and suddenly a door opens beside Toyohisa and pulls him inside. So Toyohisa moves to another world and finds him two persons from the elf, and their names are Marcia and Mark, and Toyohisa is unconscious because of the blood he lost, and they get surprised that his ear is not long like them, so they say he is a stray. "We must take him to the abandoned castle." And at night they take him to the strays area at the castle, and they are very afraid that their ruler knows that they helped a stray person, and suddenly a person appears above a tree. His name is Nasu, and he aims at them with the arrow and tells them, "If you get closer to the castle more than that I will kill you." So they reply while terrified, "We have one of you and he is injured with very serious injuries." So he gets surprised and tells them leave him and go, and indeed they leave quickly, while afraid of the consequences of what they did. And Nasu looks at Toyohisa and tells himself he looks like a warrior and maybe from the land of the rising sun. And afterwards he takes him to the abandoned castle, and there is another person, his name is Oda, who tells him surely what happened to him is the same that happened to us. Treat him and let us hear from him. And after a while Toyohisa wakes up terrified because he was dreaming of his father, and he finds Oda beside him and tells him, "You woke up quickly. You look like a strong and tough person, but avoid much movement because your wounds have not healed yet." So Toyohisa pulls his sword quickly and asks him, "Who are you?" And before he cuts his head Oda had pointed his rifle at his head. So Toyohisa stops and Oda tells him, "Answer me, you. Who are you and from where did you come?" And Toyohisa gets surprised when he sees the crest of the Moko clan on the wall. So he asks him, "Are you one of the Oda clan?" So he laughs sarcastically and tells him, "I am Oda himself." So Toyohisa thinks he is mocking him and replies, "Tell the truth." So Oda tells him, "I am Nobunaga Oda, former right minister of the Oda clan." So Toyohisa gets angry and strikes with his sword, and Oda dodges it and replies to him sarcastically, "Surely what you are saying is not real, because the ruler Nobunaga died a long time ago. Stop impersonating him because I exposed your truth." And before Toyohisa attacks him, Nasu fires an arrow between them and tells them, "Stop what you are doing," and then they make lunch together and talk calmly, and Oda asks Toyohisa, "Are people really thinking that I died?" So Toyohisa replies while still not convinced he is Oda, "Yes, you died after the Akechi troops betrayed you and killed you. And that was 18 years ago." So Oda gets shocked and tells him, 18 years how? It has not passed 6 months since the Bald's attack named Hinoji, and suddenly I found myself here. So Toyohisa replies, "And that is why I tell you you are crazy and surely you are not Oda." And suddenly Nasu laughs and tells them, "You are making all this fuss over a 17 years difference." So Toyohisa asks him angrily, "And who are you anyway?" So he replies, "My name is Nasu Yoichi." So Toyohisa gets shocked and tells him, "Liar. You died 400 years ago, and that is more impossible than this fake Oda." So Nasu replies calmly, "Whether you believed or not. This is me." So Toyohisa starts to doubt his sanity and tells himself, "Surely I am dreaming." So Oda tells him, "We did not hear from you until now." So Toyohisa replies telling him, "I am from the Shimazu clan and the son of Yahisa Shimazu." So Oda tries to remember who is Shimazu and remembers with difficulty and mocks it, and Nasu continues telling him, "I know Shimazu and he was living in my era, but they were just a family of villagers." So Toyohisa gets very angry because they do not know what his clan reached now. And afterwards Toyohisa asks Oda, did you not die in the Hinoji castle? So he laughs and tells him, surely I will not allow myself to die at the hands of that bald. I took with me Ranmaru and started searching for a place to escape. And suddenly I found myself in a place all its walls white and a person sitting at a desk in front of me. And without me noticing, a gate opened beside me and pulled me, and I found myself in this world. So Nasu tells him, and the same thing happened to me. So Toyohisa gets surprised and tells them, and I also met him while I was withdrawing from the great battle in Sekigahara. And after a while Oda asks him what happened to Nobutada, my son. So Toyohisa replies he died. Because he thought you died, so he went to fight and avenge you. So Oda laughs and tells him my son was stupid, and afterwards he gets very upset and tells him he was supposed to leave the place as fast as possible. This way everything I did in the 50 years I lived got wasted. So Nasu replies nothing in life ever lasts. And on the other side there is a girl named Simo watching the abandoned castle they are in, and her commander speaks to her from the crystal and asks her, did you find them? So she replies telling him, yes, I found 3 of the strays. So he replies to her, we must do something about this matter, otherwise this will be the end of the world. And the commander is speaking to another person from the crystal named Ham, and he asks him, what news do you have? So he replies, I brought the 2 stray men you told me about, Hannibal the Carthaginian and Scipio the Roman, and now they are in the place you told me about. But every while they fight each other, and indeed the 2 are fighting about the wars that happened between them in their world before they came to this world. So the commander tells him stop them, and at night Mark and Marcia are in front of their father, and he yells at them severely because they helped a stray person, and tells them if the ruler knew what happened he would kill you. So they tell him he was unconscious and on the verge of death, but he does not care about their excuses and tells them do not get close to the castle again. And at the same time Aram, their ruler, and his soldiers are on the borders of the village. And on the other side Toyohisa is sleeping and suddenly smells something, so he wakes quickly, and Nasu asks him, did you notice? So Oda tells them this is the smell of war, and it looks like it came from the elf village. Probably criminals or bandits attacked them. So Toyohisa asks them, who are the elf? So he replies they are half humans, their ears are long, and they live in the forest. And by the way, they are the ones who saved you and brought you here. So Toyohisa runs quickly towards the village. So Oda says he turned out more foolish than me, and he smiles to Nasu and they both move after him. So Simo sees them and gets surprised. And Toyohisa mocks Oda and tells him you are very slow. So he replies I became in my 50s now, age effects. So Nasu asks Toyohisa, how old are you now? So he replies 30. So he laughs because he is the youngest among them and he is 19 years old. And Oda gets upset and tells the trivial one his personality is completely different from what was written in the war records. And suddenly they find Mark and Marcia in front of them trying to escape from someone, and behind them appear the ruler's knights chasing them. So Oda jumps and fires a bullet into the head of the knight riding a horse, and Toyohisa jumps between Mark and Marcia and cuts the knights chasing them in half with the sword, and the last knight resists Toyohisa's sword and asks him, are you the strays from the abandoned castle? But he speaks another language Toyohisa does not know, so he tells him, I do not understand anything from you. Speak the language of the land of the rising sun. So the knight does not know the language, and Toyohisa breaks his sword and cuts his head with one strike. So Mark and Marcia get terrified and think he will kill them, and he asks them, are you the ones who saved me? But they do not understand his language and get afraid of him, so Oda tells him they also do not speak the language of the land of the rising sun. Should you not kill them like you killed the knight? So Toyohisa gets surprised and makes them say help in his language, so it would be logical to leave them alive, and they repeat after him from fear so he will not kill them. And afterwards Oda notices that the knights were very well armed, so it is impossible they were just criminals or bandits. So he tells himself maybe they are forces of the ruler of this area, and he laughs cunningly and tells them let us seize this village. And at the same time Simo is watching them from afar, and the commander hears from the crystal the word seize, so he says he said seize instead of save or liberate, and that indicates their savage nature that they were raised on in war. And this is their greatest ability. And whatever the time or place, they have no principle other than control over those around them. And on the other side, the rest of the knights are in the elf village, and they make them all line up in front of them and throw them to the ground. So the village mayor asks them what happened. What is our accusation? So the ruler Aram replies with a question, you entered the forest and saved one of the strays, right? So the mayor gets surprised, and Aram continues, the elf are forbidden to enter the forest or make bows or get close to the strays. And if they do any of these, it is a serious crime. So the mayor replies the 2 children did that to save him from death. So he asks him with astonishment, and you ask me to forgive you because they are just 2 children. You know that anything related to the strays is in the hands of the Octobrian sorcerers. And if you interfered in it, it would be a crime. So the father of the 2 children replies angrily, shut up. You are the ones who started and demand from us the impossible. How will we collect firewood and food without entering the forest? And you make us slaves to you also. And the day 2 children save a person about to die, you call it a crime. You are demanding us death. So Aram replies indifferently yes. All of you do not deserve other than death anyway. And if you want to blame someone, blame your ancestors who lost the war. And one day all the half-humans will go extinct. Whether elf or dwarves or hobbit. And suddenly he pulls his sword and kills one of the elf, and tells them I basically have orders to reduce your number to half. So the brother of Mark and Marcia tells him no, kill me instead of them, so he refuses and tells him you still have before you a bright future. But your siblings who saved the stray are already dead now. And at that moment one of the knights enters on Aram and tells him there is a problem. A fire happened in the wheat field, so Aram gets very angry because he was about to harvest and this crop they had been waiting for a very long time. And on the other side Nasu asks Oda, you burned this field, why? So he replies, this is a strategy one used in all the wars to occupy the country I want. Those who have no dignity can live also if they had food. And those who have no food but have dignity will endure hunger. But those who have neither this nor that do not care or it makes any difference to them, and they cling to anything they meet just as if it will save them. And this way we can pretend we will save them and occupy them. And suddenly Toyohisa comes out from the middle of the fire, and when Aram sees him he gets terrified, and Toyohisa jumps on one of the knights and cuts his head in half, and runs quickly to the next and cuts his head, and Aram stands not comprehending what is happening before him, and Toyohisa kills them one after another quickly, and leaves the knights because he got bored and says I want the commander's head, and he looks at Aram and asks him you are the commander, right? But Aram does not understand his language at all, and the rest of the elf are shocked why a stray person saves them. And Mark and Marcia appear and tell the village people that Toyohisa saved them from the knights who were chasing them, and Aram pulls his sword, and Toyohisa looks around him at the elf corpses and their weak shape in fear. So he gets angry and asks Aram, how did you dare do that? And he pulls his sword and tells him I do not want your head anymore. I must torture you. Nevertheless Aram does not understand anything from what he says and speaks arrogantly, let us talk with the sword. So Mark tries to tell Toyohisa Aram is not like the rest of the knights. He is a very strong ruler and even the strays cannot stand against him. And suddenly Toyohisa throws his sword at him. So Aram blocks it easily, but in a second Toyohisa is before his face and holds his head and squeezes it, and Aram tries to escape from him but cannot, and Toyohisa pulls his sword sheath and strikes Aram in the head with all his strength, and continues torturing him, and all the elf are shocked by his brutality, and Oda laughs at what he is doing to him, and Nasu comes to sit beside him, so he asks him, did you finish? So he tells him, yes, I eliminated all the knights who escaped. And Toyohisa finishes hitting Aram but leaves him alive, and Aram begs him to spare him, so Toyohisa stands, and takes his sword and goes to the mayor to give him the sword and tells him kill him, but of course the mayor fears him and does not understand what he said. So Toyohisa puts the sword for him in the ground and points to Aram, and here the mayor understands and they all understand what he means but are afraid to do it. So Toyohisa insists and yells at them, so the mayor takes the sword, and the rest of the elf take the weapons from the ground and kill him all together. And Oda and Nasu arrive, and the elf consider them from now on the new rulers of the village. And on the other side Murasaki is sitting holding a newspaper, and strangely written in it the news of what happened in the elf village, and there is a picture of Toyohisa, and suddenly the white room gets covered by darkness and a girl named Easy appears, and she asks him, are you still wasting your time in struggle? And tells him, whatever you try and whatever strays you send, I will be the one who wins. So he expels her and tells her mistakes must be corrected, and I will not allow you to do what you want. So she gets angry and taps her finger, changing the events in the newspaper in his hand, and he finds written the Black King sets out to invade the south. So he gets surprised and Easy tells him your strays will not be able to defeat my outcasts and disappears. And at the same time Simo speaks to her commander from the crystal while terrified, and tells him what happened in the elf village. So he tells her, we do not have time to deal with them now, do not bring them here because the Black King has arrived. And the commander goes up to the roof and meets one of the people of Carneades, and he tells him, why are all the Octobrians afraid? This is not the first time the Northerners attack us, and they have never been able to penetrate our walls. And the people of Carneades all laugh mockingly. So the Octobrians' commander says to himself, these soldiers are useless and will not endure 2 days, and he decides that he must give the command of the southern army to Scipio and Hannibal and goes down to them. And he meets below the army commander and tries to convince him to hand them the command. So the commander replies sarcastically, it is impossible to give command to mere foolish strays like these. So Ham replies, but we will lose if we do not hand command to them. So the commander gets angry because he is being mocked, and asks him, and who gave you the right to decide in the first place? You are just a sorcerer's organization. So Scipio asks Ham, what are you quarreling about, because I do not understand anything of this language. So he replies, we are trying to convince the commander to hand you the command. So Scipio gets surprised and tells him impossible. So Ham replies, I know it is something illogical, but if you do not take command we will lose and all die. So Scipio asks him, and why would I do that in the first place? And the army soldiers begin to mock Scipio and Hannibal. So Scipio tells Ham, I do not understand their language, but I know they are insulting, and they all begin laughing at them. And the army commander points at Hannibal and says, it is impossible I hand command to a foolish and weak person like that. So Scipio gets angry and grabs him, and tells him, the man you are talking about, if millions of you stood before him, you would not defeat him. This man is the only one who could terrify my empire that never feared anyone. But of course the commander does not understand anything of the language he speaks, and the Octobrians' commander stops Scipio and tells him it is too late for that talk. We must get you out of here immediately before the war that will happen. And at the same time the Black King begins the attack and moves with his army of monsters toward the wall, and suddenly huge dragons appear in the sky. So the Octobrians' commander looks at him from the window and wonders what degree of hatred inside him makes him do that. And the southern archers launch arrows from atop the wall, but the monsters continue running toward them. And on the other side the Black King summons his 3 extraordinary followers, Hijikata and Joan of Arc and Anastasia, and orders them to set off toward the fortress. And a person named Kuro appears behind the Black King, and tells him, finally you started to move? Are you really determined to wipe out this world? So the king replies, you have permission to do whatever you want. So he tells him, I know. This is the way I have lived my whole life anyway. So the Black King asks him, whose side are you on? The strays or the outcasts? So he replies, the stronger. And at the same time the monsters try to climb the wall, and the southern archers prevent them, and suddenly one of the dragons comes close and burns them all, and from atop the dragons other monsters descend and kill the southerners very quickly, and the soldiers on the ground also manage to put ladders on the wall and climb it. And suddenly a door opens in the sky like the one Toyohisa and the others came from, and a military aircraft comes out of it with a person named Lieutenant Kano inside. So the Octobrians' commander gets surprised and asks himself whose side is he on. And Kano looks from the plane window and does not understand what is happening, nor is he even aware he is in another world now. And suddenly the dragons fly beside him to see whose side he belongs to. And at the same time the Octobrians' commander tells Ham we must move immediately, and suddenly Hijikata smashes the fortress gate with the sword, and uses his magic and makes 2 copies of himself, and wipes out all the soldiers standing before him, and Joan of Arc burns the second gate with fire, magic, and finds before her 3 soldiers, so she burns them, and on the other side 2 soldiers are standing and they find a storm freezing them in their place, and that is because of Anastasia, and the civilians try to save themselves and flee from the monsters as much as possible, and all the buildings around them are blazing and the dragons are spitting fire at everything, and Kano is seeing what is happening, so he recalls painful memories that traumatize him and he gets very angry. And at the same time we find 3 soldiers trying to open a door to hide, so Joan of Arc appears before them and tells them, do you want help? So they get terrified of her and attack her, but she cuts them easily, and 2 of them try to run, so she laughs and burns them with magic. And at the same time there are 2 people named Butch and Kid, and they are from the Wilds gang, and they are waiting for the Octobrians' commander and the strays with him to get them out of this place. And before they board the carriage Harawakira, the Octobrians' commander tells Scipio and Hannibal, surely you are upset that I asked you to fight the moment you arrived here, but help us please to defeat the Black King. Though I do not know whether we can defeat him or not, so Scipio asks Hannibal, what do you think? And he replies, I think it is not impossible. And they set off with the carriage quickly, and they kill the monsters that block their path, and Butch pulls 2 pistols and Kid pulls a machine gun, and both of them fire at the monsters, and Hannibal admires these weapons very much and does not know them because he is from an ancient era, and as soon as they exit the fortress gate a dragon appears above them, and before it fires at them, Kano appears with the military aircraft and fires bullets at it, killing it, and he decides to kill the rest of the dragons, so he heads toward them to finish them, so Harawakira and the others are able to escape with their carriage. So the Black King gets angry and orders his soldiers to kill any human present in this world, and says they are useless creatures. And on the other side Simo is very tense and afraid because the connection between them and Commander Harawakira was cut, and she does not know what to do, and suddenly Toyohisa and Oda and Yoichi appear before her, and tell her we knew we were being watched, so she gets terrified and thinks they will kill her immediately. So Toyohisa hits her on the head to calm down, so Yoichi asks them could she be a spy, so Oda replies she is too foolish to be that, and they notice she speaks Japanese like them, so Toyohisa frightens her and tells her say everything you know, so she gets terrified and begs him not to cut her head, so he replies if you do not confess I will let Oda handle you, so she gets more terrified because she knows he likes to burn anything, and she confesses and says, "My name is Simo, and I am a sorceress from the Octobrians organization, and I was watching you by order of the commander." And she explains to them that the men who are transported here from another world are called strays in this world. And our organization's mission is to monitor their movements and gather them together. And you came to this world to fight the outcasts. So they reply to her, "We are not interested, and all that is just nonsense." So she is shocked by their response. And they take her to the abandoned castle and tie her, and Oda laughs and tells her, "You misjudged me. I am the embodiment of evil." And Nasu asks her, "Who do you think we are, strays or outcasts?" So she replies, "I do not think you are outcasts," and he asks her why. So she tells them those who get transported here as outcasts have no mercy nor humanity, and there is nothing in their hearts except hatred for the world. And I do not know what happened to them in their world, but they literally hate everything. And all they have been doing since they came here, killing and occupying. And the first thing they started with was the north, and they made all the monsters that were living there become under their control. And after that they began to come to us in the south. And the whole world will be destroyed if we let them continue like this. So Oda asks her, "How many are you?" And she gets shocked from the question, so he continues, "I do not know anything about the monsters you are talking about, but surely they have a great army. And I want to know how much army the Octobrians have to face them." So she gets nervous and tells him, "We are a sorcerer's organization and our task is to gather the strays." So he replies, "Meaning you have nobody." So she tells him, "But we intend to speak to all the kings in all the countries to support us with armed forces, and after that we will make the strays lead those forces." So he tells her, "You are very foolish. All countries follow the same policy whatever world they are in, meaning kings are called kings because of the forces they have. So surely they will not give you those forces and give up their title even if the army of the outcasts is terrifying. And all of them will wait until the outcasts attack them and die in their castles." So she replies angrily, "Then what are we supposed to do? Only the strays can overcome the outcasts." So he tells her the answer is clear. "We the strays must occupy all the countries and take their forces." So Simo gets shocked, and nevertheless Oda continues, "And by the way, I hereby announce that we will make a conquest campaign led by Toyohisa, and you will help us seize this empire and achieve peace in your world." And although Simo is afraid and terrified, and does not know what she will say to Haruakira, yet their plan pleases her. And at the same time a person named Rasputin informs the Black King that they already seized Carneades. So the king asks him, "And what about the losses?" So he replies, "Not much. The only thing considered a loss are 4 dragons." So he tells him, "Bring me all the wounded because they are my brothers and I will try to save those I can." And Rasputin brings him the wounded monsters, and with one touch the Black King heals them, and afterwards he orders them to spread the news of the fall of Carneades so that all who were afraid of humans, and all who believed that the rule of humans will end, will join us. And then the king tells Rasputin, "I tried to save the humans before, but they met me with rejection. And because of that, I have no choice but to save the half-humans and wipe out all the humans. And the first people we must begin with are the strays. Search for them and chase them and kill them." And on the other side, Kano's plane breaks down and he tries to land it safely and succeeds, but suddenly monsters appear around him, so he gets excited to fight them. And at the same time in the elf village, they are holding a meeting to see what they will do next. So one of them replies, "It is already too late, we killed the ruler and we cannot go back." So another replies, "But that was because of the strays." So he tells him, "And do you think the king will listen to these excuses?" And another says, "And also half the crop got burned, and this way we cannot pay the king's taxes. And even if he forgives us, he will take the rest of the crop and we will sit without food." And they find that truly there is no way before them except to revolt against this ruling system, because surely his forces are on their way to them now to punish them. And some of them object and see there is no hope to defeat the king. And suddenly Nasu enters and tells them no, there is hope, but they do not understand what he said. So Toyohisa asks Simo angrily, "You truly, how do you speak our language?" So she replies in fear, "We are a sorcerer's organization and we were investigating about you all the time." And she pulls out a strange paper and tells him our commander invented this spell, and it lets us speak with anyone in his language. So they all get upset that such a thing exists, and they have been suffering for a very long time in understanding other languages since they came to this world. So she tries to find them a spell like it to give them, and she sticks a paper on Nasu's forehead so he acts strangely, and Oda holds one of the spells and wonders who could this Octobrian's commander be to craft such a thing. And then he asks Simo to explain the situation of the elf, so she gets surprised he wants the explanation now. So he tells her, "I have an idea anyway, be brief." So she tells him these are called elf, and the humans have been attacking them since long ago until today. So he asks her, "And what type are the elf?" So she tells him they are half humans with long lives and have pride. So he laughs cunningly and tells her, "Enough, that is what I wanted to know." And then he tells Toyohisa come stand beside me and tell them what I will say. So Toyohisa gets surprised and Oda explains to him he must be the person who always speaks to them to rule them, and he whispers in his ear what he will say. So Toyohisa replies angrily, you are a very deceitful man. Now I understood why they betrayed you. And then Toyohisa stands before the elf and tells them you bring shame to your ancestors with the state you reached, and asks them do you want to reclaim your land or remain living humiliated like this. So they all get angry and one of them replies surely we want to reclaim our land. So Toyohisa replies in that case come let us reclaim your land together. So Oda gets impressed with his stance and his words, and suddenly Toyohisa asks him, why did you appoint me leader? It was supposed you take this mission. So he laughs cunningly and tells him no, I like to control everything in secret. And suddenly Toyohisa tells him I am not your son. So Oda gets shocked and replies angrily, I know you fool, and he gets very upset and goes to stand alone far. So Toyohisa feels guilty because he went too far in his words, and suddenly Oda replies to him back and tells him I am not your father. Your father died. So they begin hitting each other and fighting, and Nasu gets excited too and decides to play with them. And suddenly one of the elves stops them and tells them the king's forces are on their way now. There is no time for what you are doing, so Toyohisa asks him who are you? And he replies I am Shera, son of the village mayor who died, and thank you for saving my siblings Mark and Marcia. And Oda replies to Shera, surely they will come, and by now they are gathering their forces and they have before them 3 days or less. So Shera begs them to help them defend the village because they never held a weapon before and never learned how to fight, and tells them we were just children when they destroyed our land 40 years ago. And our fathers and brothers who fought in the battle against them all died, so all of us here do not know how to fight. So Oda gets surprised by something and asks him how old are you? So Shera replies 106, and Oda gets shocked and tells him do not joke. If we were in Japan now you would be executed for that lie. So Shera replies in astonishment, but this is the truth. So Toyohisa asks Mark and Marcia, and how old are you? So Marcia tells him I am 39, and Mark tells him I am 36. So they all get shocked and Simo tells them this is normal, because their ages are 5 times that of humans for example, and Toyohisa gets upset that they are older than him, and Simo continues this area was the land of the elf, and the humans kingdom called Arut destroyed it and destroyed the land of the dwarves and hobbit and made them slaves, and afterwards the kingdom of Arut became an empire. So Oda asks her, and Arut is still expanding its land. So she tells him the empire currently tries to enter battles and win them, but all the battles end in a draw. So Oda replies this is natural, because occupying a country is considered playing with fire, and when you occupy a country you have 3 possibilities. Either you annihilate it or give it everything it owns, and the third possibility is not finishing its job completely and leaving enemies wanting revenge. And he approaches Toyohisa and asks him what will you do? So Toyohisa says we will let them storm the place. And on the next day the Arut soldiers are coming to the village, and the soldiers ask is it not too much 200 soldiers for one elf village? So one of them replies they killed Aram and all his forces, and they do not believe because they know the elf are very cowardly, and they say there are rumors saying they were killed at the hands of the strays. So they get surprised because they know there are few of them and it is impossible they could. And at sunset the soldiers arrive to the elf village and get shocked that there is nobody in the village at all, and they are all in the forest above the trees waiting for the signal of attack from Toyohisa. So the soldiers begin searching all the houses, and on the other side the elf are making bows as they like, and Oda is speaking with Toyohisa about the gear they have to fight with. So he tells him we only have 20 swords and a shield and 2 horses from the soldiers we killed, and the elf do not know how to ride these horses, so we will use them as I said in my plan. But we will also need spears so they can strike from afar, and their fear of getting close to the enemy will lessen a little. So Toyohisa replies you look very pleased making a plan. So Oda tells him battles are consequences of what happened in the past, and I believe the true challenge is that the person does good things before the battle, and at the same time Nasu is with the elf and shows them the equipment they have and tells them to choose from it for fighting, and on this equipment are bloodstains. So the elf gets surprised, and Yoichi says to himself surely we will not tell them what we did with the corpses. Indeed Toyohisa cut their heads and buried them, but what Oda did cannot be said at all. And on the other side Oda and Toyohisa are walking in the forest with Simo, and they reach a big pit Oda put the corpses in, and its smell is very bad, and this is one of the battle strategies he used to make the soldiers fear the plague that will spread from these corpses and not approach the place ever. So Simo objects to what he did with the soldiers' corpses, so he tells her the result would have been the same even if we buried them, so we better benefit from it. So Simo says to herself I understood now. The difference between us and these people is not culture nor techniques, but their view of life and death. And suddenly Oda tells her I want sulfur that is found beside volcanoes. Ask your organization to bring much of it. So she tells him I think they will know how to bring it, but it will be very expensive. Do you have money? So he replies angrily I will pay you after I occupy 5 or 6 countries. And at the same time the elf are training with Yoichi on shooting arrows, and Yoichi notices they are learning quickly, so Shara tells him we are naturally archers. But we were forbidden to make bows or touch them since a very long time. And fortunately we used to train on archery from childhood before the war, so Yoichi feels challenged and tells them it is impossible, you overcome me. And he holds his bow and arrow and begins showing off his skills, and they get impressed with him. And after a while Toyohisa gathers everyone in the village and tells them we are entering a war, and the goal is not only to reclaim the land of the elf, we will afterwards head to the king and cut off his head. So Oda gets surprised because that is not what they agreed on. So Toyohisa continues, Mark and Marcia told me about the reason for the absence of any women here in this village, and that is because the king kidnapped them all. So Oda understands that the king's plan is to make the elf extinct, and Toyohisa throws on them words to excite them for the battle. And at night the soldiers in the village are on guard duty, and they mock the elf and say if they run to another village we will destroy it completely. And suddenly one of them gets struck by an arrow in his neck, and at the same time 2 other soldiers are speaking about the foul smell in the village, and in a moment Toyohisa appears behind them and cuts them, and arrows rain down on the soldiers like rain. So the soldiers try to escape to the other side of the village, but suddenly Toyohisa appears before them, and instead of continuing to run they begin to chase him. And on the other side Oda gives a signal to the elf to move, and they begin dragging a cart, and Toyohisa kills the soldiers standing before him. So they feel fear from him and do not comprehend how he alone before all this number and nobody is able against him. And at the same time the elf reach the village and stick wooden barriers in the ground and stand behind them, and Oda orders them to fire the flaming arrows, and they burn all the village buildings, so the soldiers rush at them, and in one moment all the elf fire arrows at them, killing everyone who comes near, and Oda laughs sarcastically because this plan will cause fear and panic among the enemy ranks. And indeed one of the enemy commanders begins to wonder that his soldiers' formation broke, so he orders them to restore the formation and tells them it is just a trivial barrier, we will destroy it easily. Nevertheless the soldiers are not able to calm down, and one of the commanders enters on the supreme commander and tells him the water we have is about to run out and the elf closed the well. So the supreme commander understands this was their plan from the beginning and all this was a trap, and the elf continue exterminating the soldiers, and Oda is very pleased that his plan is effective. So the soldiers decide to run because there is no hope in fighting. And suddenly they hear a strange scream, and they look ahead and find it coming from Toyohisa standing for them between the fire with the sword, and quickly he rushes on them, and strangely he bypasses the soldiers and cuts off the supreme commander's head first. So the rest of the soldiers fall into panic and run quickly, and Oda watches him very impressed with his way of thinking that led him to the commander's head to dismantle the whole army. So the elf get very happy that they were able to face the army and reclaim their land. So Toyohisa tells them the matter is not over yet. I told you we will attack the king personally. So Oda approaches him and asks him, you keep saying the king, but do you even have a plan? So he replies with complete spontaneity, of course not. The whole matter is that when you attack an enemy you must continue fighting until you wipe out all their forces. And this is my way of fighting I inherited from my father and my uncle and my grandfather. So Oda replies sarcastically, meaning the whole clan are fools as I expected. And before Toyohisa gets angry he tells him, calm down, I have a plan. And on the other side the soldiers who fled in the forest suddenly fall into a trap, and those who do not fall get shot by Yoichi and the elf from atop the trees, and they wipe them out. So this extermination method reminds Yoichi of a person who always told him your acts contradict the warrior's code, and this person was Kuro, and he used to reply sarcastically, teachings. There is nothing called teachings or honor in the battlefield. You are very naive. This clan is all fools. So Yoichi tries to forget him and forget all his words because in his view he is just a monster. And on the other side the king is very angry and tells his aide, not a single soldier returned. Surely the elf were not just fleeing, so he replies, even if that talk is true, we sent most of the soldiers. Do you see that decision right? So he tells him the conditions of a root in war are still deteriorating, and we have for years been trying to control the half-humans. But now it became a matter of time and we will find them explode at us. And we will be in trouble if we send few forces, we must annihilate them all before this rebellion grows. And a soldier interrupts them and tells them that some soldiers returned, so the king gets very happy and orders to open the gate for them. But the surprise is that these soldiers are Oda and the others wearing the armor of the soldiers they killed, and the king meets them himself at the gate and asks them eagerly what is the situation. Were they rebelling as I expected? So Oda removes the helmet and smiles sarcastically and tells him yes indeed, and they aim their weapons at the king and his aide, and they all remove the armor, and Toyohisa grabs him angrily and asks him, where are you imprisoning the women? So he tells him they are in the tower, so he leaves him and goes to save them, and the king asks them, what did you do to my soldiers? So Oda replies, we killed most of them, and the rest our comrade is chasing them in the forest now. But do not worry, you anyway will meet them in the dirt. And at the same time Toyohisa and Shara go up the tower and he cuts off the head of the first guard he meets, but the second guard surrenders, and Shara is about to kill him, so Toyohisa stops him and tells him we kill enemies according to their acts. And it is shameful you kill a soldier who surrendered. And on the other side Oda and some of the elf enter the king's office, and he tells them take all the important papers you find, and Simo enters and is amazed that they managed to seize the fortress indeed, and she tells Oda, I no longer have the energy to argue with you honestly. So he points to a picture on the wall and asks her, who is this? So she replies that is the founder of the Arut Empire, and it is said he appeared suddenly 60 years ago, and we are still trying to discover whether he is one of the strays or the outcasts. The only time we heard about his appearance was in one of the cafes, and he was advising people to revolt against the government, and indeed he was able to persuade them with great skill, and he took them and seized the capital, but he suddenly committed suicide after he founded the empire. We do not know the reason. And suddenly one of the elf enters and tells Oda that Toyohisa took the men who imprisoned the women, and put them all in the square and wants to kill them. So Oda gets alarmed and goes quickly while wondering that Toyohisa did not expect he would see a gruesome scene. And he says to himself, Toyohisa is supposed to remain with a good and upright image before all the people to rule them and leave to me the evil deeds to do in secret. And on the other side Toyohisa has gathered them and tied them, and all the elf are aiming arrows at them and waiting for his signal. So the soldiers beg Toyohisa not to kill them, and among them are those who threaten that if the government knows the punishment will be very severe. And before Toyohisa gives them the signal, Oda hits him on the head, knocking him out, and he gives them the signal himself so that he is the doer, not Toyohisa. And before they shoot he tells the soldiers, if you were thinking that after what you did you will get out of here alive, then you are very mistaken. And indeed the elf released the arrows and wiped them all out, including the king, and Toyohisa wakes up angry, so Oda tells him you woke quickly. Do not worry, I handled the matter. But next time leave these bad things to me to do. So he punches Oda to repay what he did, and Oda gets surprised because for a very long time nobody hit him, and Yoichi arrives and asks them, are you fighting? So they tell him no, and he looks at the corpses and finds there is still one alive. So Mark says he said he just came here and did nothing. And if we kill him, then we will not be different from these monsters in anything. And the elf returned to their village with their women, and the news that the strays liberated the elf goes around all parts of the world, and the elf have with them a notice from Oda written on it. If you want to have a homeland, I will give you the land. And in that case, all you have to do is join us in the upcoming battles. And he also writes a statement that Arut is on the verge of collapse, and at the same time Murasaki is reading what is happening in his newspaper, and he learns that the elf began to make one uprising after another and expand their land. And on the other side Izzy has just woken up from sleep, and she opens her laptop to see the world news, and is shocked that Murasaki is ahead of her so far. And at the same time there is a meeting between some nobles and kings of regions, and they talk about the latest news and the subject of the elf uprising and the strays helping them, and a person named Saint enters and apologizes to them for the delay. So one of the guards outside the room says, why does this saint look so strange? So his colleague warns him that if he hears him he will finish him, and tells him that the one named Saint is a noble with very great influence and owns a quarter of the empire, and that is because when the emperor seized the capital he was the first to turn and help him, and the rumors say that without this betrayal the empire would not have been founded. But the strange thing is that he now lives in complete freedom and never participated in a war. Nevertheless, nobody can stand against him ever. So the other guard is surprised because what he is saying was 50 years ago, and he wonders how old is Count Saint now. And Saint begins to tell the rest, I have something important I must tell you, and he draws a circle on the map on one of the coasts, and tells them I warned you before that we should let our ships pass from this place. And as a result of what you taught our fleet was captured and is currently sinking in the ocean, so they all get surprised. And indeed on the other side the merchants of the Gobenin Guild are riding giant birds and pass over the fleet and throw their bombs to destroy it. And at the same time Saint tells the rest, surely this attack is because of the battles we made in all the neighboring countries. So at least you should not have made the Eastern Trade Guild enemies to us. And he laughs mockingly and tells them that was a naive mistake. And afterwards he talks to them about the elf matter. So one replies, but we can handle these few slaves very easily. So Saint says to himself, as I expected with time, there is no hope in them ever. And he tells them the Arut Empire expanded its area by occupying the countries neighboring it. Meaning what we are facing now is not just an elf uprising. Surely they will unite with the rest of the other races, and then the rebellion will spread in all the lands of the world. And the fear is that they seize the entire West. And suddenly he tells them sarcastically, we are finished, and he leaves the place and tells them I have things to do behind me. I hope you win the war. Goodbye. And he goes outside to meet Felamy and Alistair, his aides, and tells them we must communicate with the elf army and the strays, And on the other side Shara meets the different elf tribes all over the world and tries to unite them to grow their forces, but they are still suspicious of the strays and not fully reassured even after they liberated them and helped them. So Shara tells them they are trustworthy, for me, do not worry. And at the same time Oda is very annoyed with Toyohisa, and that is because he made a council of consultation and appointed in it people from the elf, while he wanted him to rise gradually until he becomes a king. So Toyohisa replies, I do not like planning and these things, and also I do not know whether someone is plotting against me or not. And maybe you understand what they are thinking, but you will never know what their intention is. Whereas I am confident they will follow me and I can be a king at any time. But in the end, they will aim their arrows toward us. And one day we will wake to find ourselves tied in some fortress and surrounded by fire. Do you want that to happen to you again? So Oda replies, I truly cannot know their intentions. And I do not want the same betrayal to happen to me again. But I do not put something in my head except I achieve it in the end. And I will make you king. And afterwards he goes out to direct the elf and makes them craft something he plans to use later, and Shara enters to him with Oda's rifle from the other world, and tells him, I asked all the elf blacksmiths and none of them understands how it was made. So Oda asks him, then in your opinion who could make it? So he replies, the dwarves blacksmiths can, because that is the only thing they know how to make. And at the same time Yoichi is with the elf teaching them archery and precise aiming, and he tries to impose his control over them. And on the other side Toyohisa tries to teach them swordsmanship, but he finds no response from them, and one of the elf asks him, then if I miss the target what do I do? So Toyohisa replies, then you must accept death. And at night Toyohisa tells Oda that the elf are not good at using the sword, and on the contrary Yoichi says they are very good at using the bow, and suddenly Oda feels something strange, and at the same moment Yoichi and Toyohisa feel the same thing. So Simo gets surprised and does not understand what is going on. So they tell her something is approaching us and it has the smell of blood. And at the same time, the one entering upon them is Joan of Arc with her army of the Black Kings, monsters, and they attack the elf and burn all their tents. So Toyohisa appears and asks her, is this fire, sorcery, or trick? And at the same time Oda tells Shara, gather all the men and bring the weapons and let the women escape to the forest. And suddenly another person from the Black King's army appears, and his name is Gillis de Rice. So Yoichi stands before him and decides to fight him, and Gillis strikes with his weapon, breaking the ground, and Yoichi barely dodges it. And at the same moment Jean attacks Toyohisa, but he moves quickly and dodges the fire. Nevertheless, she surrounds him and asks him, where will you go again? And she launches fire at him, and before it hits him Simo appears quickly and uses a spell paper on the ground, so a stone wall rises blocking the fire. So Toyohisa takes her quickly and gets her outside the fire barrier so she will not get hurt, and he is very impressed that she uses sorcery like Jean, and he tells her the enemy is using terrifying magic, but it is very clear she has no battle experience. So Simo gets surprised how he knew something like that. So he tells her, look at her, you will find all she is doing is showing off her power, nothing more. As if she wants those around her to see her. So Simo realizes that this way of thinking is what makes the Japanese warriors very terrifying, and then he asks Simo, can you make stone walls again? So she tells him yes, and he tells her a plan to execute. And at the same time Yoichi is in a fast clash with Gillis, but both of them are nearly equal in strength, so they match each other's movements, and the elf watching them notice that Yoichi is laughing while fighting as if enjoying, and on the other side his brother Kuro is standing on a high tree and tells himself, yes, enjoy Yoichi. Your fighting skills are splendid, and at the same time Yoichi is very surprised because he struck Gillis several times in fatal weak points and still he is alive and fighting. And in the forest Oda is with the elf and tells them the time has come that I explained to you how to eliminate the knights, and I know they look very scary, but there is no reason that makes you afraid at all. They are scary when they attack suddenly and rush toward you, but at the same time they go too far and run recklessly and may chase you in the forest, and certainly they do not have infantry soldiers and all of them are riding horses, and of course they think they are stronger because they run with them, while in fact the trees themselves hinder their path. We can stand at high ground and fire arrows. And indeed the elf fire arrows at them and in the blink of an eye wipe out all the enemy army forces. And on the other side Jean is searching for Toyohisa, and suddenly he appears behind her, so she surrounds him with fire again and tells him there is no escape. So he tells her, I am not intending to run at all, and he gives a signal to Simo, so she makes behind him a stone wall. So Jean gets confused and does not understand how he uses a defense spell behind him and traps himself like that, and in her intense tension Toyohisa puts his sword in his mouth and calls Simo again. So she puts the spell on the wall so it activates sideways and gives Toyohisa a very strong push toward Jean, and indeed he hits her with a very powerful kick in her stomach, and Simo is not believing he used a spell she intended for defense and he used it for attack, and the kick sends Jean to the well so she drowns in the water, and at that moment she remembers when she was in her world and her people burned her and stood mocking her, and calling her a witch and mocking her clothes, and at that time she was wishing someone would pour water on her to extinguish the fire, and she asks herself why. They treated me like that and said that about me when all this time I was defending them in our land, and at the same moment Easy appeared to her and took her hand because she was an outcast. And Toyohisa pulls her from the water and asks her, why are you wearing men's clothes and fighting? I cannot cut your head because you are a woman. So she replies, you do not know anything about us at all. We fought and defended our country France for a very long time. So Toyohisa butts her with all his strength and tells her, of course I do not know anything about you nor ever heard of a country called France before. You foreigners do not know how to speak with logic at all. And on the other side, Yoichi is still in his clash with Gillis, and every time he hits him with an arrow he finds no effect, to the extent he struck both his eyes, and still Gillis continues fighting, and suddenly he ties Yoichi's neck with a chain and strangles him. So Oda orders the elf to fire arrows at Gillis, but they do no more than Yoichi did, and he is not affected at all by the arrows, and suddenly Kuro notices that a carriage is coming toward them quickly, and this carriage is the carriage of Haruakira with the Wilds gang and the Strays, and Kid fires the machine gun at Gillis until he splits him in half with bullets, but the shock is that his upper half is still moving and goes to grab his weapon, and Oda does not comprehend that he did not die, and at the same time a dragon passes above the well where Jean is and takes her, so Gillis sees them passing above him, and he remembers when he was in his world before he came to this world, and a person told him that people tied Jean and burned her and he was her comrade, so he replied, then I too will do the same she did so that people burn me and I go to the same place she went, and indeed he transferred with her to this world, but this time he decides to go before her and die, so his body turns to ash, and Simo runs to Haruakira, so he tells her well done, and Oda asks him, who are you? So Haruakira replies, I am a man who hates the outcasts, and I am a teacher and leader of the Octobrian sorcerers, and I have orders to assist the Strays in their confrontation with the outcasts. And at the same time Yoichi is panting from fear because he was about to die, and suddenly he hears Kuro's voice telling him, you are no longer with the skill you once had, my brother. So Yoichi gets shocked and looks behind him, but he does not find him, and Kuro asks him, what was in your mind when you decided to enter a one-on-one fight? This style is not suitable for you at all. Do you think yourself a warrior like us? Or what? Do you not remember what you did in the last battle? And Yoichi is afraid and very upset from his words, and asks him, you too came to this world? Where are you? And when he gets no reply he yells, telling him, I will not listen to your orders again. So Kuro laughs and tells him, do what you want. I anyway will meet you again. And on the other side Toyohisa enters on Oda and Haruakira, so they ask him, what did you do to Jean? So he tells them, I threw her in the well, then struck her on the head and left, so they all get shocked that he did not kill her, and they quickly go to the well and do not find her in it, so Haruakira asks him, why did you not finish her? She is one of the outcasts. So he replies, killing a woman is not something I take pride in. That is shame, so he replies angrily, her gender does not matter. Whether she is a woman or not, we must kill her as long as she is one of the outcasts. So Toyohisa replies with full determination, I am not interested in your rules. I will never cut a woman's head, and that is my rule. And I will not be just a pawn in the hand of the man who brought us here. We are humans and we must follow our principles. And on the other side Toyohisa's words appear before Murasaki in the newspaper, so he becomes very pleased, and Haruakira realizes the nature of the samurai, and tells himself they have strange rules they call principles, and maybe that is their weapon and the reason they were chosen. But we must kill the outcasts whether they are men or women, and no matter how bad their past is. So Simo interrupts him while he is thinking and asks him who is the old man in the carriage. So he tells her his name is Hannibal Barca and he is one of the Strays, and he was always in rivalry with the other Stray named Scipio in their world. But unfortunately we lost Scipio on our way when we faced the Black King's forces more than once, and we return in time when they were still fleeing in the carriage and the monsters chasing them very quickly, and suddenly they launched flaming arrows at them, so Scipio tried to remove the arrow that hit the carriage so it would not burn, and suddenly the wheels of the carriage hit a rock, so he lost his balance and flew off the carriage, and they could not stop to catch him because the dragon started breathing fire on them. And we return to the present, and Haruakira continues, and I ordered the headquarters to search for him, but nobody found him yet, and I hope he did not fall into the Black King's hands. And since then Hannibal is in a very bad state because Scipio is important to him, and at the same time Scipio is walking in the forest and very upset that he is lost, and he walks following tracks on the ground thinking they will lead him to someone's house for example, but it is no use, and suddenly he finds himself before Kano's plane, and at the same moment he finds spears before his face and finds himself surrounded by a group of half-wolves, and Kano appears and the wolves carry him on their shoulders, and he approaches Scipio angrily and tells him, do not come near my plane, and he thinks Scipio is American and intends to kill him if he is indeed. So Scipio remembers he is the person who was flying above them in the Black King's battle, so he calms him and tells him I am from Rome, so Kano stops a second and thinks, and finds that it is from the Triple Alliance countries, so he greets him, but the exact opposite shows and he kicks Scipio and tells him you are an enemy you fool, and the half-wolves see Kano fighting with Scipio, and think he is very frightening and must be their ruler, And on the other side, Oda holds one of the bullets from the ground and asks Kid, what is this? So he tells him this is a bullet of the machine gun, so Oda is surprised because in his era they had not discovered it yet, and Oda points to it and asks him, is it this? So he tells him yes, and Kid explains to him how it works, so Oda stands shocked from the talk and tells them, I realized now that my attempts to make gunpowder from corpses was just stupidity. This weapon can change the entire course of battle, and we can wipe out an army completely with it. So Haruakira enters on them and tells him, we will not be able to make its bullets, unfortunately. And I tried to show these weapons to many blacksmiths, and it was no use because, as you know, these things were made in the future compared to this world. And the problem is that the strays who came here, none of them has an idea about gunpowder. So Oda laughs cunningly and tells him, as for the gunpowder, we are currently making it. So Haruakira gets shocked, and Butch laughs sarcastically, and Haruakira replies, you are very strange. I met many strays and they were carrying different weapons, but you are the only one who has leadership principles that can change the whole world. And then Kid tells them, now what remains for us is only the detonator. So Oda gets surprised, and Haruakira explains to him that the bullet needs something to strike it to explode, and probably that thing is not gunpowder, it may be a substance or a chemical compound. So Oda replies sarcastically, you look like a scholar, how do you not know how to solve a matter like this? So he tells him, my field of specialty is the arts of sorcery, and this needs a chemist. And at the same time, a strange carriage enters the elf area, so some soldiers stop it, and they find the driver is one of the Octobrians, and he asks them about Simo. So Mark and Marcia tell him that she is indeed here, and we return to Oda and Haruakira, who asks him, are you truly making gunpowder? So he replies, yes, and all I need now is sulfur, and I already told Simo about it before, and the person who came with the carriage enters with Mark and Masha. So Haruakira tells him with surprise, Sim, what brought you here? So Sim replies, I came with the sulfur as Simo asked me. So Oda becomes very happy that she listened to him and tells them, now we can say we have gunpowder. What remains is to visit the dwarves. So Haruakira tells himself this man is very dangerous and we must put him under surveillance. He could turn the whole world, and who knows what else he will do. In the end, the strays are humans and follow their principles. And unlike the outcasts, they have no common goal with us. And as for the man who founded the Arut Empire, he may have been a stray originally. And surely his intention was to save humans and restore their dignity that was lost at the time of famine. But as a result, there came an endless war. So he approaches Oda and asks him with doubt, what will you do after you liberated the elf and made gunpowder? So he replies, I will liberate the dwarves. Afterwards, we will move from place to place and liberate the tribes under Arut's control. And we will also make an alliance with the countries fighting Arut, and in this way we will reach inside the empire. And we will produce gunpowder and gather soldiers and craft weapons and erase the whole Arut empire. Afterwards, we will found a multi-races union league, and each race will have the right of self-rule. But the military force will be under our control and led by Toyohisa as commander general. And in this way we will have made in this world a new class called the warriors. And if we cannot make this, we will never win over the outcasts. So they all look at him amazed, but Haruakira replies, but that means the army will seize authority, and it will be contradictory with the idea of self-rule you mentioned. So he replies sarcastically, and so what? Surely that is better than Arut's rule and better than us dying at the hands of the outcasts. And as you see, I am a very skillful man, and I will make this world a better place. Fair taxes and prosperous trade and farmers living happily and disciplined soldiers. It will be a great nation. So he asks him then, why do you want to appoint Toyohisa commander? Why not you? So he replies, I do not have the proper qualifications that let me take a position like that. I thought I could control all people by fear and interests, but I discovered the hearts of humans do not move like that. And because of that, I was betrayed. And the 50 years I lived were wasted. And the strange thing is that when the betrayal happened, the first one I doubted was my son. And in the end, my foolish son went to avenge and died because of me. I do not deserve to be king, unlike Toyohisa, who does not care about gain or loss nor even fear. He is the person who has the qualifications to be king. But he is a fool, so he needs help, and I am the helper. And at the same time, Toyohisa goes to Hannibal while he is sitting alone and asks him, are you well? And suddenly he yells at him and tells him, Carthage, my country, will fall if we do not move. And I have a great idea. What do you think we climb the Alps and invade Rome? So Toyohisa feels that he is indeed senile, like they all say, and he draws his sword and rushes at him quickly, and suddenly finds Hannibal put before his eye a dagger. So he laughs and tells him, maybe you are senile indeed, but still your eye did not lose its vision. And at night Toyohisa gathers the elf, and tells them the time has come to liberate the dwarves, so they all get angry and refuse, and Shara tells him you have no knowledge of the wars between the dwarves and the elf and the enmity between us from a very long time. Even if Arut was destroying our land, they never helped us, so Toyohisa replies whoever refuses to help does not need to come with us. But I will anyway continue the conquest, and whoever among you is a true soldier will come with me, and he leaves them and goes, and Oda tries to stop him so he will not ruin the plan, but he does not listen to anyone, and the elf asks Shara what do we do? So he tells them I and my village's men will go with him because this man saved our lives, and if we unite our forces with the dwarves we can defeat the empire. And I do not want to repeat the mistakes our ancestors made in the past. And on the way Toyohisa meets Harawakira, so he asks him, are you truly going? You are indeed an arrow hard to stop. But is your goal to change the world like Oda? So Toyohisa replies with full spontaneity, I want their heads. Will you come with me? So he gets shocked and tells him unfortunately we must return to the headquarters and search for Scipio. But you can take Simo with you, and suddenly Toyohisa finds Oda and Yoichi and Simo coming, and Oda tells him you fool, so he tells him I will not force anyone to come with me, and at that moment he finds the elf army coming behind him and they decided to go with him, and before Butch leaves he gives Oda his pistol, and also gives him the machine gun because there are no bullets, and tells him if you make bullets keep the weapon for yourself. And on the other side, in the largest weapon factories in the empire, there are two soldiers standing supervising the weapons going to the south, and one of them tells the other we got orders from headquarters to increase production rate, so the other soldier replies impossible to put more pressure on them because they are already about to die, and suddenly bombs are thrown on the weapon carts, and Oda is watching from afar and says I did not expect gunpowder would be this effective, and after destroying all the weapon shipments, all the enemy soldiers get terrified because they do not understand what exactly is happening, and suddenly Toyohisa appears before them with elf archers, and Toyohisa makes them scream loudly to scare the enemy soldiers more. Afterwards, he charges at the enemy. So the soldiers on top of the walls notice that an attack is happening, and before they shoot arrows at them Yoichi and his squad precede them with arrows containing bombs and blow them up, and Oda is very pleased with Yoichi's way of using the gunpowder he made, and the squad of archers with Toyohisa start shooting arrows at the soldiers and kill them one after another, with Toyohisa cutting those fleeing from the soldiers, and suddenly the fortress gate lowers and from the castle come out armored soldiers with very heavy armor. So Toyohisa understands that arrows will not work with this armor and Simo prevents the elf from shooting, so he tells the elf withdraw and makes the armored knights approach him, and suddenly Simo throws wall spells on them and surrounds them in a circle, and the elf brings some bombs and throw them on them destroying them, but before they enter the fortress the soldiers raise the gate again and there is no way to enter. And Oda thinks of a solution and suddenly finds Hannibal waving his hand with strange signs. So Oda understands what he wants to say, and he yells at Mark because he wants to send them a message. So Mark brings him the sorcerer's crystal and tells him Simo told us we can communicate through this. So he holds it and tries to talk in it and gets amazed that he actually can talk to her through it. And then he tells her the plan they will do. And the enemy soldiers do not understand what is happening but are waiting for support. And suddenly Yoichi shoots arrows with Simo's wall spells, and draws with them a ladder on the fortress wall from outside, and Yoichi and his squad secure Toyohisa's squad as they climb the ladder to cross the wall and enter the castle. And at the same time Oda is thinking about the invention of the crystal that lets them talk from afar, and realizes that the strays are the people who came to this world with new technologies and understand the difference between them. And on the other side Murasaka says to himself, right Oda, that is truly the meaning of the strays and the reason for your presence there. And this difference between you is what will change the world that does not know the meaning of the phrase, this is how it should be. And Toyohisa charges at the soldiers and chases them until they find another gate. So Shara tells him let us go liberate the dwarves first. So Toyohisa looks at him surprised and Shara explains to him that the dwarves are strong and steady warriors and their axes are sharp and violent and their hands are huge from breaking rocks and forging iron. And Shara opens one of the buildings where the dwarves are imprisoned and finds their condition very bad, and that all the past time they were also fighting. So Shara gets surprised and realizes that the elf were in blessing. And then an old man from the dwarf speaks and says, I did not expect one day that from among all creatures the elf would be the ones to save us. So Shara replies, it is not us who came to save you. We also were saved by the strays. So the old man tells him it does not matter who. Please save us, we are exhausted. So Toyohisa enters on them and welcomes the dwarves and tells them surely you cannot fight on an empty stomach. And on the other side Oda sees strange smoke coming from the fortress, so he asks Simo in the crystal what is happening. So she tells him Toyohisa made a feast for the dwarves and they stole all the food that was in the storages and are now cooking it, and after eating Toyohisa goes to the second gate with food in his hand and tells them I liberated the dwarves and they are eating now. I give you time to escape until they finish, and if you do not use the chance I will make them wipe you in the way they choose. So they surrender and open the gate and throw their weapons on the ground before Toyohisa. and then he asks them where is your commander, so the commander steps forward and tells him I surrendered and you will allow me to go right. So Toyohisa replies indifferently no, I will make them prepare you a splendid death. So the commander gets shocked and Toyohisa explains to him that the commander is the one who bears responsibility for the bad deeds he did and must be punished. So the commander refuses, and in a moment Toyohisa cuts his head and the rest of the soldiers run quickly. So Yoichi looks at them, and before Toyohisa moves he tells him you do not need to chase them. So he replies with a smile that was an old habit because these were the orders I always got. So Toyohisa tells him you no longer need to take orders from anyone. This war belongs to all of us. So Yoichi gets surprised because for the first time someone gives him freedom in this way, unlike what Kuro used to do with him. And at the same time the Black King is standing before the Bronze Dragon, one of the 6 great dragons, and the dragon tells the Black King angrily, you said you would destroy humanity and you took control of the dragons that were under our control and made them your pets. You are underestimating us. So the Black King replies with full arrogance, make a decision quickly, will you be on my side and ally with me, or shall I finish you? So the dragon replies angrily, how dare you talk to one of my status like this? So the Black King tells him with confidence, I do not care about your identity, nor even what you are. There is no difference between you and some monster children for me. So the dragon becomes very angry and threatens him, and suddenly the Black King raises his hand and changes happen in the dragon's body and he feels extreme pain, to the point he screams and tells him fine, I will join you. So Hijikata says this is a terrifying power. So Rasputin replies our king has a rare ability that lets him heal anyone, and at the same time if he reverses the ability he can destroy any creature from inside. And he also has the ability of life replication, meaning for example he can double crop yield as much as he wants. So Hijikata realizes that these abilities are in themselves a nightmare for his enemies, and that is because the concept of supplies for him does not exist, since he can double food and wood in the amounts he wants, and also heal his wounded soldiers and return them to the battlefield quickly. But he is puzzled why he ordered the monsters to farm the land instead of making the food himself. So the Black King replies that is because one day I will die and my followers must know how to grow their food themselves, and he tells them we are now an alliance consisting of several races and there will be more diversity in the future. So we need to unite them all under one culture and make them a writing system of our own and teach them farming and everything, until those who were called monsters take the place of humans and make for themselves a great civilization in this world. And on the other side Mills, the tax accountant, who was taken from the fortress where the elf women were imprisoned, is sitting in his office drowning in papers and work the elf put on his shoulders, and suddenly Mark enters on him and tells him a strange carriage is coming at us. So he goes out to see what it is and finds it is Count Saint's carriage with his followers. So Mills asks them why are you here? And Saint replies, I came to see the strays, bring them. So he tells them they are not here now, so Saint gets angry at him and scolds him, and with all stupidity Mills admits everything and tells them they are going to liberate the dwarves to make them firearms. So Saint gets shocked and tells him with fear, then what will they do with them without gunpowder? So he also admits that the strays have gunpowder in large amounts, so Saint realizes that a root will indeed be destroyed soon. And at the same time the strays are with the dwarves and all eating together in very large quantities to the point they finished all the stock. But luckily this makes them regain their health again, and Oda talks to them about the guns he wants to make and shows them the rifle he has. So they belittle it at first and then start analyzing it piece by piece and discuss with each other as blacksmiths, and in the end they tell him this is very easy. But what is its purpose? So he tells them it is a weapon and explains to them the idea of gunpowder and bullets. So they ask him then what is the idea of making something like this while archers are there? So Yoichi replies, and I too honestly do not understand this matter. For me the bow is easier to make and also does not make a sound when firing, so Oda thinks about how he will explain the matter to them, but Toyohisa replies on his behalf, the rifle has a sound that curses when you aim at your opponent that you will finish him. Besides, it is easy to train with. For example, within a day you will have a trained farmer capable of killing an expert soldier. So Oda smiles and likes his words and realizes that he is stupid in everything except fighting, and at the same time Jean wakes up terrified and looks around and finds Anastasia. So Jean asks her about Gillister Rice, and she replies unfortunately he died and turned to ashes. So Jean gets angry and Anastasia stops her and asks her what are you planning? So she replies angrily, I will go burn them all. So Anastasia tells her calmly, no, you underestimated them. Wait for your chance, and leaves her and goes out, and outside she meets Rasputin and tells him she is fine now, although her head was almost split in half. So he tells her our king's healing abilities are wonderful, but she could have died if she had been late on the way, and he asks her the stray who did this to her, his name is Toyohisa, right? He does not look like the type who would spare his enemy just because she is a woman, so she tells him no, it is clear he eased on her, but that was driven by his personal principles, and he did not even think what could happen afterwards. So he tells her yes, that is a nature of the samurai, and that is why we must not underestimate them, and she replies it has been 800 years since they appeared and nothing occupied them except to kill each other, and I do not know how our country Russia lost before them. So he asks her, you are upset because of what happened with Jean, right? So she tells him of course not and leaves him and walks, And at the same time we find the Black King's followers cutting parts from the bronze dragon's body, and he begs the Black King to make them stop what they are doing. So he replies, if you are unable to stand beside us in battle, then you are for me just a lump of meat. And the king walks, and on his way some strange pieces fall from him and a monster guard sees them. So the king tells him in a harsh tone, never tell anyone. And at the same time the dwarves finish the first rifle, so Oda gets shocked that they finished it this fast and only 1 day passed, and his expressions turn to evil looks, and he asks them, if we increase production to the maximum, how many can we make? So one of them replies, we were making for a root half its weapons, but then we were lazy and hungry. But in our case, if we all worked with all our effort, we can make 10 rifles per day. So Oda gets surprised and his evil looks increase. And on the other side, Toyohisa is with the dwarves in the forest, and they are training together, and they discuss with each other the difference of their world, but they are similar in thinking, and suddenly Saint's followers enter on them, and with Oda, Saint himself enters and tells them, I cannot believe you actually managed to make a firearm, and Simo enters from afar frightened and tells them we have a problem. Count Saint's carriage is here, and she looks before her and gets shocked that Saint is before her, so she tells him, confess. Are you one of the strays or the outcasts? So he replies telling her, do not treat me as if I am a criminal, and whether you believe it or not, I am one of the strays. So she asks him with surprise, then why did you help the emperor to found the empire? So he replies, how dare you speak like this about the great Arut empire as if it was made by the outcasts. Our first emperor Adolf Hitler was a great stray and distributed wealth to the citizens, and also distributed authority in a skillful way. So Yoichi asks him, what brought you here? So he replies, to make sure you deserve I ally with you, and my followers are currently evaluating your commander. And suddenly he looks behind and finds Falami and Alistair on the ground and bleeding. So Oda asks Toyohisa what happened. So he replies telling him, I do not understand anything, but I struck them strongly. And Count Saint asks him, why are you here? So he replies, I am a traitor and I came to sell you the Arut Empire. And I have a very good offer, and I will also make you a discount. So they all get surprised, and he tells them, I want to sell it while it still has value, because the matter will be very annoying if the forces of another country come to force us to sign a surrender document. So Toyohisa asks him, and what do you expect from us to do? So he replies telling him we must destroy Arut effectively and bring down the system. What do you think? Toyohisa asks him, what do you mean by toppling the system? So he replies explaining to him that it is a coup, meaning we will seize the authority of the empire by attacking the capital. And I will guide you through every step you will do when I sell you the whole country. And then he asks them about their names and recognizes all of them from history. So Oda tells him, you are from an era after all our eras. So Saint laughs and asks Toyohisa, do you not want to know what happened after the battle of Sekigahara? So Toyohisa replies with full confidence, I do not need you to tell me. As long as my uncle reached the village safely, then surely after that he defeated Tokugawa no matter how much time it took him. So Saint gets impressed by his confidence and that he is so certain this way. And on the next day they ride in Saint's carriage and head towards the capital. So the soldiers stop them at the gate and do not let them enter. So Alistair tells them, how dare you stop the carriage of the great Count Saint? What is your name? So the guard gets scared and apologizes to him and lets him pass with the carriage. So Toyohisa looks from the window and says, this is the capital Verlina. So Oda replies to him, we must make this place our capital. And then he tells Toyohisa, be careful of Saint and his followers because they might betray us at any moment if they find the gains and interests with someone else. And afterwards Saint holds a meeting using his influence and authority, and they ask him, why did you make this meeting? And why this late? So he tells them, I came to inform you of the cancellation of the Arut Empire. So they all get shocked, and he continues his words, we the strays made this nation with great effort, and gave it to you for half a century. But I came to tell you enough, and you must return it because we will open a new page and be on the side of Toyohisa, who will be our new leader. So they all revolt and oppose his words, and one of them stands to call the guards. So he tells them no use because Toyohisa and the others already eliminated all the guards outside. And suddenly coups happen among them, and some join Count Saint and some insist on refusal, and some agree to dissolve the empire but refuse that the one ruling them be a stray, and says, I am with the Black King ruling us. So Saint gets shocked that Rasputin is standing controlling that person like a puppet. So he asks him, you became one of the outcasts. And Toyohisa and the others enter on them, so Rasputin tells them the Black King is not free now to deal with you because he is busy destroying the world. And that is why I came to occupy this capital on his behalf and brought our soldiers into it. And probably you will find their number big and noisy, so sorry for that. And indeed his soldiers enter the place, so Toyohisa pulls the sword and cuts off all their heads. So Rasputin gets shocked from his speed and skill and tells him, you surely came from a barbaric region. But I should express my gratitude to you for not killing Jean. But Toyohisa ignores him completely and climbs on the table and kicks the person Rasputin is controlling with all his strength. So Saint tells Toyohisa, calm down so you do not kill him, and Oda approaches Rasputin and tells him, do not let fear appear on you this way. And Toyohisa looks at him and tells him, we were intending to kill anyone standing in our way from the start, and I never occupied land without killing. So Rasputin gets very angry with them and disappears, And on the other side we find Rasputin sitting in the middle of a magic circle, and he was present there by a spell, and the Black King talks to him through a spell and asks him what is the news. So he replies with fear, I found the strays already took control of the capital, although I made a root nobles into puppets and sent our best soldiers. But I did not know they were there, nor even put in mind that they act this fast and barbaric this way. They do not even think before doing anything. So Hijikata tells him, calm down, this is war. Surely things impossible to expect will happen. So the Black King replies, if you find it impossible to occupy the capital, you have permission to act as you want. And you can destroy it instead of occupying it, and kill as many of them as you can. And on the other side, Oda tells the soldiers, bring me a map of this capital, and then tells Saint, I currently have 200 elves and 200 dwarves. Those are the ones I managed to bring with me. So he replies telling him, and I have 500 soldiers on their way here now. So Oda mocks him because a person in his position should have a much bigger army. So Saint excuses that they are the best soldiers and chosen well. And then Shara tells them his soldiers have arrived, so they go out, and Toyohisa tells them get ready. So they take the rifles, and Oda is worried whether they will know how to use them in battle or not. So they decide to make Oda the one responsible for them and the one who will set their formation, and Toyohisa is the one who will lead the dwarves, and of course Yoichi has the elves, and the plan is to lure the enemy into a place and wipe them all out there. So Saint objects to this and tells them we are not forced to kill them. They are just enemies who came to occupy and realize that is impossible. So Toyohisa ignores him and says, like us, we will kill them all, and if they try to escape we will chase them. And Oda tells Saint, you look like you have no experience in battles. For example, if I were in their place, I would change my plan, and instead of occupying, I would start destroying and killing. And actually, the Black King seeks to destroy the world, and if he cannot occupy the world, he will cause destruction. And at night, they begin the plan, and Oda makes Simo in a safe building with the crystal balls to communicate with each squad, and the enemy soldiers enter the city, and all the squads are hidden and ready. So Oda gives the signal to the rifles first, and they wipe most of the enemies. And by the time the rifles get ready again, he gives the signal to Simo to tell Yoichi fire, and indeed they hit a very large number of monsters. Afterwards, the rifles fire again, and thus they cause terror to the enemy, and they are no longer confident in themselves. So Oda gives the signal to Toyohisa and the dwarves to attack from close, and Hijikata is on the roof and very angry at Toyohisa. Toyohisa begins cutting off the heads of the monsters, and with him the dwarves fight with all courage. And at the same time Oda makes Yoichi and the elves widen the range of the attack, and orders the rifles to load ammunition so that when Toyohisa retreats they protect his back, although he knows that Toyohisa will never retreat, and Oda starts doubting inside himself that something bad will happen. At that moment Hijikata orders the soldiers in the front to move back and the soldiers at the back to move forward as a kind of balance and effort, and he decides to face Toyohisa and his squad himself. And on the other side Toyohisa is surprised that the enemy retreated, and Saint thinks that means they surrendered, but Oda is still not reassured, and they receive a report from Yoichi that the enemy split into small groups and are spreading all over the city, and they started igniting the houses so that the smoke prevents visibility. So Oda gets surprised by the strategy and deduces that the enemy commander knows information about the rifles, and suddenly Hijikata appears from between the smoke and tells Toyohisa that Shimazu clan emblem I will never forget. So Toyohisa is glad that he knows his clan emblem and asks him, who are you? So he replies, Hijikata Yashitoyo from the Shinsengumi. Nevertheless Toyohisa does not recognize him, but Hijikata tells him being from Shimazu and from Satsuma village is reason enough for me to kill you. So he asks him, then what did my lineage do to you to make you hate it? So he gets very angry, and smoke comes out of his hand and forms into a monster and attacks him. At the same time Oda is thinking what is the most suitable thing he could do in the situation they are in, and feels very confused and lost, so Hannibal approaches him and tells him the matter is simple. Like we grind berries, so Oda thinks he is senile and just saying nonsense, until he sees him gather berries in one place on the ground and drop his whole body on them to grind them. So he decides to do that with the enemy forces and gather them all in one place. So he asks Yoichi, is the enemy using a specific method in burning buildings or are they running randomly? So Yoichi looks again and tells him randomly, and they seem headed toward the city council. So Oda laughs an evil laugh and says, I understand now. They did not even change their occupation plan, and he makes everyone leave the building and tells Simo bring a map of the building and come here quickly. On the other side Hijikata's smoke forms into swordsmen and Toyohisa fights them, and strangely the blows of that smoke injure him normally and their number is large, so Toyohisa holds himself and cuts them all quickly and escapes before they reform again. But suddenly he jumps out of another building's window and attacks Hijikata, so he blocks all his strikes and moves back, and summons his smoke again, so Toyohisa mocks him and escapes again, and he repeats the same move and jumps from the window behind him with plates throwing them at him. So Hijikata gets angrier and tells him you do not know anything about the honor of warriors, so Toyohisa replies we are in a war here and there are no excuses. What matters is cutting the enemy's head. At the same time, Simo hears what he is doing and gets upset with him, so Oda tells her no, he is right. His plan is provoking the enemy to distract him from commanding his army. And the whole army now is executing his old orders and do not know that we figured them out, and then he tells the soldiers, get ready. The plan is we will let them all enter the city and we will be hiding in the buildings, and when they gather we will pounce on them. And we return to Hijikata, who is approaching Toyohisa angrily, and they enter into a fast clash with the sword and match each other, until suddenly Toyohisa's sword breaks. So Hijikata unleashes his soldiers of smoke on him, and they start wounding him with their swords. Nevertheless, Toyohisa remains in his place and firm, so Hijikata tells him, you and your clan underestimated us. So Toyohisa replies, I never underestimate my enemies. As long as I am on the battlefield, I do what has to be done. And suddenly they hear sounds of explosions from the city council building, and that is because the enemy soldiers entered it and Oda left bombs inside, and Yoichi fires fire arrows at the bombs from another building. So the remaining ones try to escape, but a stone wall spell activates, sealing all the doors, so they head to the windows, breaking them, and suddenly find the soldiers armed with rifles firing at them. At the same time, Oda is very pleased that his evil plan succeeded. And on the other side, Hijikata watches his soldiers regretfully, and Toyohisa tells him, Oda has the eyes of a commander, and I never considered myself that. I am just an ambitious warrior and will never be like my father and my uncle. And even in the Battle of Sekigahara, many of our soldiers died. But the corpses of those people were a foundation upon which our success was built. Meaning, even if we die, we are not forgotten. And even if I die here now, Oda will make me a foundation upon which he will build a very great success. So he replies angrily that Shimazu clan behavior is what excluded us. And I hate you all, and I hate your eyes full of pride that you are from this clan. And he unleashes his smoke with all his strength, and before it reaches Toyohisa, the dwarf leader appears with a different rifle that fires many bullets. So Toyohisa tells him, fire them all at me. And he stands with all courage, and the dwarf fires, and the bullets wound him but do not hit him directly, and all Hijikata's smoke gets cleared. So Toyohisa pounces on him quickly with his knee. So Hijikata saves himself and punches him and tells him, you are crazy. So Toyohisa replies, war itself is madness. And suddenly the Black King talks to Hijikata telepathically and tells him the time has come to withdraw. So he tells him, I have not been defeated yet. So he replies, yes, but your victory is not now. And if you stay there, you will die. And Toyohisa takes the chance and knocks him to the ground, and quickly brings his sword down on him, but Hijikata grabs him and knees him, pushing him away. So Toyohisa punches him and they enter into a hand clash. So the Black King tells him angrily, withdraw immediately. That is an order from me. And a dragon descends and takes him away. So Toyohisa provokes him to make him come down, and Hijikata gets very angry but continues because of the king's orders, and Toyohisa loses consciousness because of the blood he lost.